Welcome back to the channel. This game continues the British Championship, in which Nigel was playing in 1984. He was actually doing very well, and in round 9 he came up against his old nemesis, Tony Miles. The game started as a Caro-Kann defence, and the Panov attack. It's all normal stuff. Queen comes out to break the pin. Black gets the double white's pawns. And here Nigel plays bishop to e3. He doesn't want to play d. He could play d5, or he potentially could play d5. But this would actually be quite good for black. So bishop to e3 is solid, just defends the d pawn. And here queenside castle's a strong move, signalling the intentions of white to play an attacking game. Black just continues to develop, and Nigel pushes in the centre. And here Nigel decides to take the knight on b6. Miles did play queen takes b6 in a game against Ripley in 1982, and it led to quite a tame draw. But here he decides to play a takes b6 with the intention to fight. I think he was probably half a point behind Nigel at this point in the tournament, so had designs on trying to win. So the knight's now in the middle of the board, threatening all sorts of discover attacks, which Miles just ignores. And it's interesting in the fact that Nigel hasn't really got any decent moves to move with the knight. If you play knight to f6, bishop takes queen, sacrificing the queen. But in this position, black's got a lot of compensation. He's got pressure on the d file. Knight to d4 will be coming, and potentially a check on c8, and also rook takes a2 in certain positions. So that wouldn't have worked. Knight takes f6. I think Nigel rejected it after seeing this variation. He could have tried knight takes b6, which again looks quite nice. Looks like it's going to pick up the exchange. But black has a very nice resource in rook takes a2. And obviously if the queen takes a2, then bishop to g5 check. And if king to c2, then knight to b4 check picks the queen up. So knight takes b6, rook takes a2 seems to refute that. He could play king to b1, which is probably the best move in the position. But again, after rook takes b2, and obviously you can't play taking back the queen, and then knight to d4. Black's in a comfortable position and is easily holding. A very complex game in that respect. But no, see, so none of the knight jumps were made by Nigel. He played rook to g1, just putting pressure on the king side, which Miles defended with bishop to f6, rook to g4. And here Miles played rook to a5 with an attempt, I assume, to get out of knight takes b6, which now looks like it could be a threat. Also threatening rook to c5 check, and maybe knight to d4 at some point. But the end doesn't like it. He now gives white as a clear advantage. Again, Nigel just sidesteps all the threats by playing king to b1 to eliminate all the checks and everything else. Miles plays rook to c5 anyway, and Nigel decides to take the pawn. Now this does allow black some counterplay with knight to d4, blocking the attack on the queen, obviously attacking the white queen. And the game is still very complex in the fact that it's quite wild. So queen to b4, obviously getting out of the attack, threatening the rook, which just drops back to hit the knight. The knight retreats to c4, opening up the attack on b7, which black defends. Obviously, you've got to keep an eye on the d4 knight as well. So you can't really play queen to c7. And rook to e4, putting more pressure on the knight. And it's here that Miles makes probably the most critical mistake of the game. That allows Nigel a winning position. He plays rook to c8, or rook f to c8. And he's looking to put pressure on the c4 knight. Nigel played a3, just a calm positional move. What he actually missed was knight to b6, which actually wins because black hasn't got a very good answer for it at all. If he takes with the rook, then the queen just takes. And now there's more pressure on the knight. And if he plays queen to a4, hitting the rook on d1, b3 just calmly sorts that out. And the knight will fall. So you can't play that. Another nice result would have been, in this position, would have been to try knight to e2, which looks like it's actually a very good move, because it's actually threatening queen takes d1 mate, and also rook to c1 forcing mate as well. Unfortunately, white has a brilliant resource in queen to f8 check. And again, whichever way you take the queen, white will end up being a piece up. So if king takes f8, knight takes queen check, then knight takes bishop check, and then the knight falls at the end. Or if rook takes f8, then knight takes queen, and again, same scenario. The rook must move, and then white can swap the bishop for the knight, and then play bishop takes e2. So crazy position, and so again, knight to e2. What couldn't have been played? I think this is why Nigel didn't play knight to b6 in the first place, thinking that knight to e2 works, but to spot queen to f8 check would have been brilliant. But none of this happened. He played a3, just a positional move to keep the advantage, give his king some space. And Miles continue rook to d8. One to a5, hitting the rook, which moves away. And bishop to h3, it looks like it's going to pick up material, but queen to c7 is quite a clever resource, because now obviously bishop takes e6, falls to queen c2 check. So Nigel grabs the knight, and after mash trades, Nigel decides to take the b pawn. He obviously could have played queen takes d4, queen takes a5, but he grabs an extra pawn, and again this simplifies. Miles plays queen to e5, but if he plays obviously queen takes a5, and Nigel will pick the bishop up after a couple of checks, and it's 2 pawns up. So whichever way you work it out, even with a knight and bishop on the board, white's emerged from all the trades and the complications 2 pawns up, and it should be just a matter of technique now to finish the game. Nigel faults the queen and bishop. Obviously the queen can check first, and the bishop retreats, keeping an eye on the back rank. Queen comes back to defend the f pawn and to hit the e pawn if the black queen moves off the e line, giving his king some space. And queen to c2, just shoring up the defence and making sure that the f pawn doesn't fall. And now the passed pawns can start rolling on the queen side. And whilst black is trying to get his queen back, the pawn is moving ever menacingly forward. Now the b pawn joins it. And the king's just moving up as well. There's no reason why it shouldn't. And now the a pawn's reached a7. Check from from black. The king can just retreat. And to be fair, Miles could have resigned a while ago, offering the trade. Grabbing another pawn, another jack. It's a clever move because even if you can't take the knight, because the queen can just take, and obviously the queen on a1 is still tied to the defence of a8. A few more token checks from black, but once white blocks with the knight, there's no more checks, and the a pawn's going to queen. So a very, very good result for Nigel, who now moved it to, I think it was 6.5 out of 8, and looking very good to become British champion for the first time. Very good game, very complex game. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe, and if you enjoyed the game, and I'll be back with the end of the British Championship in due course. Bye for now. Cheers.